Okay, well, I've got 6:30. So let's go ahead and call our meeting to order tonight. Welcome everybody joining us on our Google Meets again. And our first order of business is to approve our minutes. So I hope all you board members had a chance to look over those. And we need a motion to approve our minutes tonight. Y'all may have to turn your microphones on.
So move.
Okay, in a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. All right, and the approval of our agenda tonight. I need a motion for that, please.
So move.
All right, in a second.
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 Okay, very good. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Aye.
All right. I don't know that we have any public comments tonight, Dr. Howard.
Ms. Wheeler, I'm going to flip off the agenda for just a moment and check. I'll go right back to it. I do not see any guests with us that I'm aware of, and no one called ahead to ask to speak, so I do not believe that we have any public comment this evening.
Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, then we'll turn it over to you to Dr. Howard for superintendent's comments.
All right, very good. Thank you. We have a relatively short agenda this evening, but it's packed with very important people and things, so we'll get started. I wanted to go ahead and ask the board your thoughts on our Parent Advisory Council. As you know, we've had about 5 years of having these Parent Advisory Councils, and I think we've all found them to be very beneficial. I just wondered in light of our present condition, if this is something you want to try to continue, or we could do it virtually, or we could postpone. So welcome your feedback, and I'm going to be very honest with you. In the midst of preparing for school opening with COVID and all the different things that we've had to do, this is one of those that just hasn't been on the radar screen. But when I was looking ahead at our calendar, the next September work session, we're scheduled to have our Parent Advisory Council on September the 10th, and it would be at 7 o'clock right after the work session. So I'd love your feedback on whether or not that's something you want to continue with, or if you'd like to put the pause button on that.
Personally, I'm fine with us to continue with that. I wonder if maybe we should send out, or you could send out a sort of a questionnaire to our members and ask them how they feel about it.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. I think that honestly, my first instinct was to just postpone it, but it might be very, very important for parents to reconnect with us. And so we could do that in person, or we could do it virtually, but I'll be happy to send that out. So if y'all would just kind of make sure you've got that penciled on your calendar, that you know that the September work session, we will have a 7 o'clock parent advisory meeting, either in person at Gordon Street or virtually.
All right. Well, how about you other board members? Was somebody trying to make a comment also?
No, I agree with you, Lynn. I think it's important whether we reach out, and either way is fine with me. Whatever that advisory council is feels safe with, I think it's very important. Especially right now, we need their.
I agree. Yes. Yes.
I do as well. Yes.
I agree.
Okay. And I'm fine for us doing it either way, for us to do it through Google, or if we want to have a large enough place that we can be, distanced properly.
Right. Well, I'll send that survey tomorrow and get that ball rolling. And if I'm sure one of the big topics will obviously be how school start has been. So, but I'll ask for their feedback on areas of interest as well. So. The second item related to board meetings is the October board meeting. We adjusted our calendar. Everything's been adjusted. We just changed. But we were scheduled for October the 19th because we originally had the entire previous week off for fall break. Now that we've amended our calendar, if you'd like to move our schedule, our meeting back to October 12th, that would be in our normal cycle, but that's completely up to you.
I'm fine with going back to the 12th. How about the rest of you guys?
I'm good with that.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Clarsey, Mr. Holland?
Yes, ma'am. I am as well.
Okay.
Mr. Clancy, would that work for your schedule? Have we lost Don?
Let me click over and see if he's still here. He's still here, but he's muted.
Okay.
He has his mute on. So we'll tentatively plan that way, and if something needs to be adjusted, we can adjust because we still have another month. But if that works for the other 4 of you, then we'll plan to move it back, and that keeps us on a little bit more of a routine rotation.
Okay. All right.
All right, the next 2 items I think are very important. The first one here is an Excellence in Service Award, and it's really a recognition. And I just wanted to take a few minutes. I'm going to share this, and Mr. Gilbert and his wonderful ways put this together for us. And I want to highlight some of the things that our maintenance department has done. And as of just even a few minutes ago, I saw one of our wonderful staff members who is feverishly still delivering all the materials as they are coming in. So as you know, Mr. Gilbert oversees all of operations, including food service, transportation, facilities, and does a phenomenal job. But specifically our facilities division, led by Mr. Josh Patton, Mr. Chris Martin, Mr. Mike Davis, and then Sheila Briggs as the executive secretary. They have had, and all departments have had to pivot. But I think our maintenance department, much like our food service, the level of intervention and workload that they have had this summer has been pretty remarkable. But they have done it with tremendous commitment and grace. And I just want to remind you of the numbers of things that they have going on. Again, we looked at this at the work session, but I want our community and our other staff members to know that not only do we have construction projects that they're overseeing, in multi-million construction projects, but they've done phenomenal oversight. Renovations at Gordon Street have turned out outstanding. That building looks great. I can't wait for you all to see the cafeteria. That cafeteria is going to be so functional for our board meetings. And Dr. Morris has even worked on bringing back to life the kitchen there. So we may be able to do some snacks and dinners when we have long board meetings. So you're going to be amazed with all that's happened there. Of course, we're also coordinating efforts. Just drove by the other day and saw Chris Martin pouring sweat out in the 95-degree day, trying to dig power lines at West Jackson Middle School with the addition of trailers there. So we've added 4 at Jackson County High School, 2 at West Middle, and 2 at North Jackson. And these gentlemen and ladies are all responsible for making sure that happens. And as you know, we've got all of the Centegics and the other initiatives. So in addition to that, we have so many things that have taken place with the protection and the preparations for COVID. And as Mr. Gilbert has outlined here, the enhanced cleaning and sanitizers. I think that we had a task force meeting today that includes several community members, including Brian Bullock and a parent and our Linda Foster, who is part of our Family Connection, and about 25 people with several members who are from the community. And we were sharing with them today the numbers of things that our schools have done, and specifically since we're talking about facilities tonight, the amount of effort that has gone into trying really hard to make sure that our students return to a very safe environment. These are just a few of the things that we have been able to provide for our schools. And so none of this would have happened without the complete and utter commitment of all of our facility staff. Josh has worked really hard, and Chris Martin, who is as I said, our facilities supervisor, Mike Davis, our custodial supervisor, and Sheila, and then all of the plant managers at the schools. But I just wanted you to be aware that these folks have our schools ready to open and have put in place everything from bottle fillers to directionals on the floors. That we are ready, and it would not have happened if it had not been for the hard work of these outstanding people. So I don't know if Chris or Mike or any of you would like to say anything, but I encourage you to unmic if you would like and to speak to the board, and just we want you to know how much we appreciate what you've done. So feel free to pipe in. Otherwise, you can just wave because we know that you're probably exhausted. You may not have any breath left in you.
I'm going to jump in and say something just because I can't not do it. I just want to comment to the incredible professionalism and dedication, along with you, Dr. Howard, Sheila and Chris and Mike and Josh, amazing, just at that level, the leadership level. But when you go out and into our plant managers and our lead custodians and so many others, our technicians, who they've just done a marvelous job this year. And we are really, really blessed to have leaders like this. And so, as I said last week, hats off to them. Appreciate you.
Well, I don't hear them saying anything, and I certainly respect that, but I just want them to know how much they're appreciated. And never once have I heard a single complaint. And I think that's the best part of it, is that not only do they go about taking care of business, they do it with a smile, and you can see their smiles on the screen. So thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. You really don't know how much it's appreciated, as well as those folks out in the field. So speaking of that, we are the last couple of comments I have here. We feel very, very prepared. As I mentioned, we had fourth or fifth or sixth task meeting today, and we went over all of the plans, everything from the minute the buses start rolling to how they sit on the bus, to hand sanitizers on the bus, to how we're going to get them in the building, how we're going to get them into the classrooms, every single possible detail that we could probably think of. That we have a good plan in place. Now, I am going to send out a message to our parents tomorrow to remind them that while we have a tremendous plan in place, it's much like when you go out into the world. We are doing things differently. So there are going to be some inconveniences, including the fact that when you have to dismiss one student at a time and you've got to spread things out, there may be a delay in some of our transportation services, our pickup. Those are just things that we have to be prepared for going forward. But in terms of safety and planning and preparedness, our school leaders have done an amazing job. Our teams have done a great job, and we are ready. So I'm grateful to everyone who's made that. We're looking forward to rolling buses and having the whites of their eyes in our buildings. I was going to say we can't wait to see your smiling faces, but for a little bit, they're going to be wearing masks and we won't get to see their smiling faces, but we're looking forward to seeing them and know it's going to be a great start. Speaking of a great start, there is one item I'd like to update related to facilities and communications. Our community and our teachers know, and certainly our board is fully aware, that we went through a phone transition and we've upgraded our communications with new phones. And when we had this conversation back in, I guess we started about a year ago or even further than a year ago, discussing an upgrade. We talked about the fact that we were implementing Remind, which is a system that allows teachers to have a disguised or a kind of a ghost phone number, so they would be able to make calls on their cell phone but it not be their number, as well as using that for a consistent communication plan for our families. So we knew that we were going forward with Remind. We also knew that we were implementing Centegix, which is the response for emergencies, but it also allows you to communicate with the front office through the button. It's more of an emergency use. And then we also have the call buttons in the rooms. At that time, we felt like with those other factors, we could probably not replace all phones in classrooms. Of course, when we made that decision as a district and as a board, we were not in the midst of a pandemic, and we didn't have some of the new variables that our schools and our teachers are now considering. So you likely have gotten some feedback, and we certainly have gotten some feedback that our teachers are concerned about not having phones. And so Ms. Wheeler, we feel very equipped and prepared. If the board would like to add phones back in the classrooms, Mr. Summer and his team have done some research and can make that happen. It would be somewhere between $110,000 and $160,000, depending on the kind of phone that we choose to put in. But I would like to ask if the board would like for us to consider that, or if you want to get school started and let's see if we can get Remind working and some of the other options. We support whatever you all feel is best. We certainly understand and would support going forward with putting phones in the classrooms, but I would just pause and Ms. Wheeler, let you and the board take it from here and give us some feedback on that if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, I would like for us to move forward with this, but I'd like to hear from the rest of the board members too. What are your thoughts in this area?
Well, I never was a fan of taking them out. And if I remember, would it cost $125,000 for the upgrade that we did? Was that correct?
I think it's a little more than that.
A little more than that.
We've done now was about 200.
It was probably about 175,000.
Yeah, about 175,000, but still not.
Yeah. And now we can go back and put phones in the classrooms for 110, 125.
Well, if we do a low-end phone, which doesn't have some of the features that I think we would probably want for the teachers, we could do it. We could do it without having a display. They'd basically just be able to have voicemail. If we did the same phone, pretty much that we've done in our offices, that has the capability of forwarding to their cell phone and leaving messages and all of the other capabilities, that'd be about 160,000. Mr. Clarsey, you're unmuted. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was kind of wondering, and we discussed this the other night after the meeting, Michael and Bo. Is there not a web-based application that we can load on the teachers' phones and they access Wi-Fi through their phone and have an internet-based phone in their room, and you can call from that internet number? Is there some kind of system? That's what we use here in my office. We have I have access to my phone and then access to an internet-based line, and I can call you from that number, and it just comes up United States of America. So you're not giving out any kind of number they're going to reach you on in the middle of the night or something. And it can receive messages and voicemail and things like that. Is there something like that available that maybe it's a little cheaper than this? It's just kind of hard to swallow that we had phones and now we're going to spend $125,000 to put them right back in.
The reason those phones that had to come out, the Cisco phones, because they were outdated and they were no longer serviceable. So those phones had to come out either way. It was just whether or not we wanted to replace them all or replace just what we've replaced. But there is an IP, internet-based program, and I'm going to mute just so there's not conflict. But Mr. Summer and Mr. Nicholson are welcome to provide some additional context here.
Dr. Howard, what Mr. Clarsey just described is essentially what Remind can do. Remind, if we put all teachers' phones, their cell phone on the Wi-Fi, which we could do because we're not doing the bring your own technology with students anymore. So we have that bandwidth. It does the same thing. It gives you it doesn't necessarily say United States of America. It might give you a Texas phone number, a Denver phone number. And it can do that, and that's something that's far less expensive that we've already purchased and just started providing professional learning for our teachers last week. So it's kind of a learning curve and it's new. The only thing that doesn't do necessarily is if somebody calls the front office, it doesn't. The secretary or the front office person can't necessarily very easily say, "Oh, let me point you to that teacher's cell phone." It would be more so that a parent would be calling that number directly, unless I'm missing something. But that was the intention, was to be able to provide that Wi-Fi Remind enabled phone, and then teachers wouldn't have to use their data because it would be on our Wi-Fi.
May I ask a question? So what about something like Google Voice though? So I have a Google Voice phone number that you can call me through that phone number. And it's, that you're given an actual phone number. It's you use internet calling. Is something like that not available?
Well, and what would happen if the internet's down?
Well, if we have a voice over IP phone system, then if your internet goes down, then your phones go down.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Miss Flippin to speak to the Google Voice, if you don't mind. She's our Google expert, and there are some idiosyncrasies with G Suite.
Sure. So with G Suite, which is our essentially Google for Education domain, Google Voice is actually not available. We'd have to pay for that feature, and it's rather exorbitant. So we don't have that availability. We can't ask our teachers to make their own personal accounts with that, because then we have no security when it comes to what information is being shared between student and teachers. So one of the reasons we purchased Remind instead was because we have that security feature, and we can make sure that everything is auto-rostered, managed, et cetera, so forth. And it was significantly cheaper than Google Voice.
Okay. Miss Anglin, I haven't heard anything from you. What are your thoughts? Carol? I hope we haven't lost her.
Lynn, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. I was just saying, what are your thoughts concerning this?
Okay. My computer is going.
She must be
What?
having internet. And go ahead. Well, I don't know if we're going to be able to get through to her right now.
I'm with, can you hear me?
I can right now, yes. But you're gone.
Okay, you can hear me.
Well, I heard you say, can you hear me? But that's all. What else were you saying, Carol?
Are those kids?
I don't know that we're going to be able to get her.
While we're waiting on her, Miles, I just want to say, I think that it is, I've heard from a couple teachers, and I know Mr. Cronick mentioned he'd heard from a few as well.
And I have.
I think that if they feel like it's something that they need, $100,000 is a lot, but I would be interested in stumbling over my words a little bit. I think they need something, obviously.
Yes.
I hope that the option is not that expensive, but something is definitely needed. I know I have trouble getting cell phone service in the majority of the schools, so that's not an option. So I'd be open to some suggestions, recommendations from the experts in this.
Well, and one of the concerns that came to me that I really had not even thought about is, I know with the previous phone system that we had, like if you needed to talk to a teacher and you could call the school and you could, if they were busy in the classroom, then you could go directly to their voicemail and leave them a message. Then they could call you when they had an opportunity. From what I understand, the way things are set up now, that's not a possibility. So if someone needs to get in touch with their student's teacher, they have to leave a message with the secretary, which is going to leave an extra burden on our secretaries. And we know they've got all they can say grace over also. And so that was another reason that I felt like we needed to really look at this again also. But now somebody else might be able to answer your question, Mr. Holland.
But what agree with what Lynn is saying. I think I would be in favor of moving forward with it, and see if we couldn't get just some more detailed information on the cost, but move forward with it. I don't know how long it would take to implement these phones. April, you may be able to step in. They need it. I don't want to wait. I don't think we ought to wait until next month to bring it up again. And I'm happy moving forward.
Yeah, I agree, Don.
And I'm happy moving forward as well. But I do want to see the cost. I know initially we talked about $450,000 last year, and I think the year before that, and I think that's why we put it off at that point. But I do believe the teachers need that level of communication with parents. I'm not for them using their cell phones. I just most companies that if you use your cell phone for, they're gonna provide that for you. So I think we need to, for lack of better terms, we need to go back and relick that calf and come up with. And I want to see some what it's going to cost.
And also, if I don't know if there's a way to poll the teachers isn't the right word, but do all teachers want one? Or there's some that don't necessarily want one, maybe. I think that should be something that we should also look into.
I think there's segments of that building that are just have complete no means for any kind of outside communication. So I would think either they all need it, or unless there was somewhere in the building that
I agree,
they didn't need it.
Well,
I would leave that up to the expert.
Well, and I would think they would all need it. A teacher might be in one classroom this year, but that doesn't mean they're going to be there forever. And so I think if we do it, and I would like for us to do it, let's do it for everybody. Do the same for everybody.
So Ms. Miller, I appreciate, for all of you, I appreciate this conversation, and the price has come down a little bit since we first started. So you're right, Mr. Cronick, it was over 400,000, but just like everything else, the more common they become. So about a 175 for the first round, which is what we've done in offices. Another 160 would get us, that's still $100,000 cheaper than the whole package would have been if we had gone forward 2 years ago, like we talked about. So that would be about 500 phones that we're putting in. And I would agree with Mr. Clarsey that, or everyone, that if we're going to, and Ms. Wheeler, if we're going to do it, it needs to become a part of the standard setup for teachers. So regardless of what classroom a teacher's in, they have access to the same resource and the same tools. So my recommendation would be that we move forward with it and we provide it for all teachers. Now, we will need to get the hard details for you, but if we could put, if that's what we choose to do, if we could put an action item that allows us to at least explore, but we not spend any money until you all have had a chance to review the plan.
So are our IT people on here? Can they answer the question? So
Sure.
does our phone, will that phone system do soft phones as well? What kind of phones does this system support? There you are, Michael. I see you.
He's asking. Standard license.
It would be more expensive than the ones we're getting, Mr. Hollett. This is Mike.
The licensing would be not the phone.
The licensing would be more expensive, not the phone.
Okay, so there is no option to do a soft phone with these?
Well, we have an option. It's not a very viable option. It'd be cheaper to put an actual phone in there.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And I did get a text from Ms. Anglin because she said her computer kept dropping her connection, but she said that, if this is something that would make the teachers feel more comfortable and safer during this time that she wants us to make sure we take care of them. So do I understand that we are ready to add this to our action items to move forward?
Yes, I think so. This is Bo.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm good with that. I'm good with that, Ms.
All
Williams.
right.
Good.
Okay, great. All right.
So, Ms. Wheeler, I will be happy to, Amanda's here with me, so we can amend the consent agenda item and add that as item 8. If
All right.
the pleasure of the board. Okay.
All righty.
And that's really all that we had to share with you. I appreciate that conversation was not something that we had anticipated. And if we had anticipated this, we would have discussed it at the work session, but I appreciate your time this evening. And I am absolutely thrilled that we'll be able to provide teachers. Right now, there are so many things that are uncertain and difficult. While $100,000+ is a lot of money, it would be a big win. And I think our teachers need anything that they can for security and easeability for what we're going to be going through.
I agree. Yeah. All right. Well, is there any other discussion about any of our other action items tonight?
No.
I just would like to mention that with our millage rate, that this is a rollback. And this is something that the Board of Education had promised a number of years ago when we had to increase, that as soon as we were able to do some rollback, that we would certainly do that. So I want our taxpayers to know that we're living up to our promises. Does anybody else have anything else about any of our action items, or are we ready to vote?
Yeah, Ms. Wheeler, I just want to clarify. So what is the action item going to be on the phones?
So what I'd like to be able to put, Mr. Hollett, is I would be recommending that the superintendent proceed with negotiations to purchase Mitel phones for teacher classrooms and a SPLOST expenditure up to $160,000. But we would not spend any of that until we shared with you what that looked like. That just gives us the leverage to not have to have another meeting for us to be able to spend SPLOST
Yes,
funds.
ma'am. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Howard.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. All righty. Well, then, hearing that, are we ready to take a vote, board members?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, using our consent agenda, do I have a motion that we approve items 1 through 8?
So moved.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Very good. All right. Well, and just before we adjourn, I would just like to say that we're certainly praying for a wonderful school opening. We appreciate all the hard work and the dedication that all of our educators and our support folks have put in to make this a good school opening as safely as possible as we can for all of our students and our employees. And so we wish you all a wonderful school year. And does anybody else have any comments? Any other board members or anyone else that would have anything they'd like to share at this time?
No, I'll second that though, Ms. Wheeler. It's going to be a important time for a lot of these kids, and I'm grateful for the teachers and administration as well for the hard work they put in for this this unprecedented time. So thank you all.
Exactly. All right. Well, do I have a motion that we adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
All right, very good. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and y'all have a good evening.
Thank you
Thank
all
you.
so much. Appreciate
All right.
it. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.